In our body, there are different types of muscle fibers to account for our different needs, especially in sporting scenarios. There's three different types of this: a slow oxidative, type 1, fast oxidative glycolytic, type 2A, and fast glycolytic fiber, type 2B. The first type of fiber, the slow oxidative, is highly suited for long-distance running, such as a marathon, for reasons we'll get into. The type 2A fiber, on the other hand, is better suited for a 400 to 800 meter race, with type 2B adapted to fit a fast sprint, e.g. 100 meter sprint, or movement similar to a jump/throw. Initially, we noticed that with the slow oxidative fiber, the structure is different to the other two, as it has a relatively small fiber diameter, therefore meaning they do not produce a high amount of tension. These fibers are usually red in colour due to the high density of capillaries that can be found within the fiber, along with the high myoglobin content, which is used as an actin binding site for oxygen. This highly differs from the fast glycolytic fiber, as this has a larger diameter, but far sufficient less capillaries, therefore making it white in colour. Finally, as seen with many of the examples about to be given, the fast oxidative glycolytic fiber sit in between these two examples, with an average diameter and number of capillaries. As we know, the slow oxidative fiber has a high amount of capillaries and also a high level of mitochondria. We can relate this back to the marathon example, as these two are clearly key factors in allowing them to do this. This is because due to the high level of capillaries, a lot of blood can be transported to these fibers, which is needed for consistent movement. Also, because of this, the type 1 fiber is less likely to fatigue as it is aerobic. Furthermore, the high levels of mitochondria assist and help the ATP production, which is needed for aerobic cellular respiration. This is then contrasted with the type 2B, which has the least of both mitochondria and capillaries, therefore making it easier for the muscle to fatigue, and there is less blood circulation and energy being produced from the mitochondria. However, the fast glycolytic fiber has far superior myosin ATPase activity, supplying the fiber with a high breakdown of ATP, meaning that despite making the fiber more fatigable, it gives the fiber more power, which links to the 100-meter sprint or throws as short bursts of power is needed. In addition, this fiber also has the fastest contraction speed, as they have the fastest twitch to produce an extremely rapid burst of movement, whereas the slow oxidative fiber has a slow twitch, and therefore a slower controlled contraction speed, which helps the body last a long period of time, but a smaller force is well suited for a marathon as it is a long controlled race, where a high level of aerobic endurance is needed. Fast glycolytic fibers also have a high glycogen store, as it is used in glycolysis to generate high levels of ATP quickly in order to create high tension needed for a high force. For almost every structural feature or function, the fast oxidative glycolytic fiber sits in between the other two fibers, as it is almost a mix of both. The muscle contraction begins with the stimulus, which is the sighting and thought that a muscle needs to be contracted, in this case in order to kick a ball. The stimulus then undergoes saltatory conduction and jumps over the myelin sheath, as this jumping speeds up the process. After passing the myelin sheath, it then reaches the vesicle, which is a store of ACH at the presynaptic membrane, and crosses over the synapse to reach the postsynaptic membrane, which induces an impulse to be released. This impulse passes through the T-tubules to the sarcoplasmic reticulum, which stores calcium at the neuromuscular junction. This calcium is highly important in this process during the latter stages of the sliding filament theory, as it binds to the tropomosin, allowing the actin binding site to connect to the myelin head, which is energized due to ATP. This energized myelin head then produces a power stroke, which pushes the actin across and then releases it once again when ATP connects to it, and then produces the movement to kick the ball. The neuromuscular junction is the synapse an impulse reaches when responding to a stimuli between the motor neuron and a muscle fiber. Due to there being a motor neuron, it can send a signal to the muscle fiber, and it divides into branches which connects to the muscle fiber. These muscle fibers each have a neuromuscular junction, as this is where the axon joins the fiber. If the signal can reach the muscle fiber, the muscle will then contract. For the impulse to reach these branches of muscle fiber, it passes over the myelin sheath, as this allows it to jump over and travel quicker. This is called saltatory conduction. Once it reaches this point, it will get to the presynaptic membrane, the axon, and synaptic vesicles will be released as neurotransmitters and will have to pass over the synapse, as this is how electrical impulses are transferred. Once it passes over the synapse, it will reach the postsynaptic membrane on the soma.